Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers, friends of Ikra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana. If you're wondering whether I have changed, which I have fundamentally changed, I've just come back from Umrah, and I wish all those people who went for Hajj before me the very best, and Allah make the Hajj Kabul.
Ameen.
My guest had also been for Hajj, I think I came back 2 days after he came back. Sorry, I went 2 days after he came back. So I've had mashallah, very wonderful time. I just wanted to say to everybody else who managed to do Hajj before me and Umrah afterwards, I hope Allah accepts, I pray Allah accepts your Hajj and your Umrah.
Ameen.
And make it Kabul, and may this be the beginning of a change in everyone's lives, both spiritually uplifting everyone. And I hope you've also had a wonderful time. Some quietness while I've been away as well. As I say, I come into your homes every week, week in, week out, trying to bring you, issues of interest that I feel, and sometimes my viewers tell me about things. So I bring subjects to you, which I hope will provide you with some information, some answers to some of the dilemmas and some of the questions that affect our community. Before I proceed and introduce my guest, can I just pay tribute to Hazrat Pir Maruf Sahib of Bradford. Most of you will know he sadly passed away last Thursday. His janazah was on Friday. He was an icon in the Muslim community in this part of the world and to many parts of the world as well. He had many, many followers, and he was a leader of proportion that is very undescribable. His impact, his effect on the Muslim world has been absolutely enormous. His contribution to the Muslim community in Bradford surrounding areas and internationally cannot be sort of counted on any scale of awards that one would want to do so. So may Allah grant him the highest place in Jannah, give his family and friends, sabr in these very difficult and challenging times. I am sure, as many will be aware of, Pir Maruf was instrumental in developing some of the major institutions in Bradford and surrounding areas, and I'm sure his legacy will live on for years and years to come, and he will be sorely missed, not just by his family, but many, many of his followers and friends that he had made over the many, many years that he made Bradford his home. So once again, deep condolences to the families and friends of Hazrat Pir Maruf Sahib. May Allah give him the highest place in Jannah, reward him for all his efforts and all the work he carried out, and that his legacy will become something that will be cherished. And I know it will be cherished by many, many of our friends, some of whom I come on this program regularly, and will live on forever and ever, ever. Now, today, I just wanted to come back after a break. When I went away from Umrah, obviously things happened, and the most significant thing that happened was the election, which I missed because I was away. And the election, I think most of us knew, those who were involved in politics, that we were expecting a result which was the Labour Party were likely to win the election and the Conservative Party were likely to lose. What we were not aware of was the scale of the loss of the Conservative Party and the gain in the Labour Party. In between all that, there was all this issue about independent candidates wanting to teach the Labour Party a bit of a lesson in the terms of making sure that where over the last 60 years the Labour Party had basically counted on the Asian and the Muslim community in particular, their votes and their backing, that there was some really, really discontent, particularly in young people, following what has been happening since the 7th October in Palestine and Gaza, which unfortunately still continues, which many, many organizations, including the UN, have declared as a genocide. Although some people are refusing to accept that, but that's a definition that many, many institutions have agreed on, that it is a genocide that is going on. And many, many institutions and many senior Labour Party and other party members have called for an immediate ceasefire. One of the reasons why there was this disheartenment, disenfranchisement with the Labour Party was that because Keir Starmer, the leader at that time in the opposition, had not asked for an immediate ceasefire, a lot of Muslims, particularly young people, felt that that was a betrayal of years and years of loyalty to the Labour Party that their parents and their grandparents had shown, and they wanted to display a sense of disquiet as far as they could see. And we saw that happening across the country. In many places, independent councillors, so independent candidates, stood in opposition of established Labour leaders, and in some areas they were successful, in others they were not. And one of the things it showed that where the Muslim community was united on this issue, they were able to make some success both at local level, at council level, as well as on the parliamentary level. So what does this mean for us? Where does this take us now? The Labour Party have got a huge majority. We know that the Labour Party have now, or the Foreign Secretary David Lammy has asked for an immediate ceasefire and recognizing the two-state solution. Now, if and when that happens, we will have to wait and see. But that statement has been made. But I wanted to bring somebody who is a political analyst, a commentator, has been actively involved in politics over many, many years, and has been on my program. You may not recognize him today, but as I say, he's been for Hajj and arrived just before I went. And so he's Maqsood Ahmed, my guest today, who's come all the way from Manchester. Maqsood, thank you for coming back. Hajj Mubarak to you and your family.
And Umrah Mubarak to you as well.
Thank you very much, sir. I hope you had a wonderful time. I know you went at probably one of the most difficult times of the year. When I went, it was very, very hot. It was 45 degrees. I think when you went, it was touching 50 degrees.
Absolutely.
So how you managed to cope with all that, and the crowd was just unbelievable. And we know many, many people lost their lives because of heat exhaustion, dehydration. May Allah bless them all and their families. May Allah keep the rest of them safeguarded. Those who are ill and unwell, that Allah gives them quickly shifa and brings them back to full health. So Maqsood, obviously, it was the first time for you to go to Saudi?
It's second time I went. I did Umrah about 2 years ago.
All right, mashallah.
So I was pleased I did the Umrah because that gives you a little bit of insight of what happened for Hajj.
Right.
Hajj spiritually was amazing,
right.
but very demanding, as you know in a sense when you go there. But alhamdulillah, managed to do it.
So you were safe and well?
Alhamdulillah, I was. Allah kept us safe and well with the group that we were with. So it was an amazing journey, really, in a sense on it. But I would recommend it's a young person's Hajj, really. Are you with me?
Definitely.
People tend to wait till they get to 60, like myself and others. But I would suggest strongly, like I have to my children, the right time for Hajj is when they're young, actually. It's
I've said this to all my nephews and nieces that the best time to go in your 40s if you can afford it, because it is quite a testing time to be in Hajj nowadays, especially with all the 5 days of the Hajj that you have to go through at this moment in time. With the amount of crowds that we get there now, I mean, even when I was there was a huge crowd. You would expect that some people would have gone. And some people did go, but there were others who were still there. There were some people there who had a Hajj package for 6 weeks.
Yes, sir.
So they're there for quite a long time. But mashallah, by the grace of Allah, I mean, this was my third trip. So, I found it really enjoyable, spiritually uplifting. I had my daughter from America and my grandson with me. So, it was like a family affair. But it really made it sort of worthwhile, both in terms of my grandson, who was only 12. So he got to learn quite a few things as well. So yes, Hajj Mubarak to Maqsood and his family, and to everybody who has been for Hajj, and I hope you're safe and sound. Just turning to the election, obviously you were actively involved in your area, in Rochdale, in Greater Manchester, so with some of these election issues. The outcome of the election, one of the surprising things when I was there was to learn that George Galloway, who was standing in Rochdale, having won the seat at a by-election, had actually lost the election, right? And was that, one of the factors, as I say, in some communities, the Muslim community actually coalesced and united together, like in Dewsbury and Batley. They're all communities, Gujarati Muslim, Pakistani Muslim, Deobandi, Barelvi, they all decided to work collectively together, and they actually won the seat. But there are other circumstances as well, because it's a brand new seat. Now, obviously, what is your interpretation of the outcome of the election, with the Labour Party having such a huge majority? Do you feel that things are going to be changing for the Muslim community?
I don't think it was a surprise, Iqbal, as you mentioned early on before. I don't think Labour Party won in the sense that I think the Conservative Party actually lost the election with Sunak in charge. I think the Labour Party, if you look at the majority of the votes they got, Jeremy Corbyn got more votes than Keir Starmer did, if you look at the facts of the voting system in a sense on it. I think there was a number of multiple, I would say, strands that played in part that why Labour had a huge majority. And don't forget, one of them was the Reform Party, the new party that came through. That took a lot of seats from the Conservative Party, from my analysis and my observation. And then the Liberal Democrats did very well as well. So they took lots of votes from Conservative as well as from Labour Party. And then the independent people that came through as well, which is very well. So I think it was mainly not because of Keir Starmer, in my opinion, was a brilliant strategist and came up with policies that United Kingdom and England wanted. It was more of people were fed up with the Conservative policies.
14 years
the
of
14 years
yeah.
of basically nightmare, which some people called it, within Greater Manchester. So that played an important part. It was that's what I say. I think the Conservative lost the election. Labour didn't win it.
Right.
You know, Labour won it by default because 14, 15 years of Conservative policies, which was damaging the country.
Had reform not been in the picture, what do you think would have happened?
I think
Labour took some of the red wall seats back, didn't they?
Labour would have still won, but the margin would have been less, in my opinion. I think the Conservative vote, the Reform vote, definitely would have gone to majority of it to Conservatives. So the Reform Party damaged Conservative Party a massive impact there. I would have, felt in a sense on it. That was a major change, I would say, where Conservatives really felt it, because they took in some areas, and some of the areas, Reform came second.
Yes.
And that in itself, for a party that actually hasn't been around a long time, they did fantastic.
Well,
So they took the votes.
That was sort of mainly as a result of one man, and that is Nigel Farage. So he's got this personality that everybody seems to is galvanized to. It's like to Donald Trump in America. He's created this image of himself, and that's what Nigel Farage has done. That is a touchy-feely person with the people. He resonates with the people, particularly on the right of the party. Some of his comments about Muslims and the black community has not been very, very good over the last few weeks, particularly about Muslims. Now, how do you see that playing out over the next?
It's a trend that Nigel always brings in my opinion. He's a very divisive politician. He's not an inclusive politician, with regards towards it. But we see that around the world. It's not just Nigel. I would say Trump is also divisive. Biden is divisive, especially if you look at issues around Palestine. And Keir Starmer, if you look at that, I think he became a divisive politician because he wanted to change the party. But what is he changing it to? Are you with him? Is he changing it to make it better? Or is he making it change to suit the lobbyists? Are you with me in a sense on it? And every party that we feel now, I feel now, it has a brand name. George Galloway is a brand name. Nigel Farage is a brand name. But behind that brand name, Iqbal, the most important thing is financial sort of who's backing them. Without the finance backing, brand names can't do anything basically. So they have this equation, 3 strands really to their success. You get a brand name, financial backing, lots of money thrown at it, and secondly, the media. The media keep repeating the same people again and again and again. So what you're really doing indirectly, our mainstream media played a very important part in actually promoting Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. If you look at the BBC and the Sky News and the other news, every time they were always on there. And yet there were other people like George Galloway, I would say, who were taking lots of votes before as well. But George didn't get that high profile as Nigel Farage did.
The same amount of airtime.
Same amount of airtime. So that's a crucial element as well. So there are 3 factors.
Do you feel there's a built-in disadvantage for certain?
Absolutely. The independents, for example, the independents who did very well, how many of those independents have actually come onto the mainstream or invited to the mainstream to have a dialogue about their strategies, their policies, their vision for the next 5 years?
But I mean, let's go back, because I was talking to a young man this morning, and he was saying, we've elected an independent person, but that person is not going to be able to do anything for us because he has got no power. So, if he had been a member of the Labour Party or a Conservative Party, they would have wielded some sort of power within the power structure of that organisation. So we've got 5 independents at the moment in the House of Commons, right, with Jeremy Corbyn. Now, how do you interpret the Muslim community's reaction during the campaign? Because in some areas, the Muslim community came together as one united force. They forgot whether they were Deobandi or Barelvi or Ahle Hadith.
Sure.
They forgot whether they were Indians or Pakistanis. They all wanted to show, particularly to the Labour Party, that they felt sort of disconnected to the Labour Party now after 60 years or so. People from the Asian subcontinent blindly, voting for the Labour Party. How do you feel that sort of played out? And do you see a line of sort of a line of thread moving forward, a sort of bright light moving forward the last next 5 to 10 years?
I think, for me, observing politics for all my life, basically, in a sense on it, for the Muslim community depends on what their values are, what their priorities are. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the Muslim communities, is their priorities internationally values of human rights important to them? Or is the potholes on your streets very, very sort of, do they relate to the potholes and unemployment? When it comes to the Muslim community, because we look at it internationally, the Muslim communities and with bad leadership of Muslim bad leadership as well as Arab bad leadership, Muslim as a community, as a ummah, is suffering around the world.
Oh, definitely.
The population.
Definitely.
So for Muslims, it doesn't matter whether you support Labour or Conservative, you still suffer. By staying in Labour or staying in Conservative, experience has shown us that hasn't actually influenced any change, policy change.
And that's what people are saying.
So when people say to me, well, Labour will make a difference, no, it won't. Conservatives won't make a difference, because when it comes to the Muslim agenda, the Muslim sort of priorities, it actually all mainstream parties let them down. The Labour Party was always seen as, from my experience, as a party that was fair and just, internationally as well as nationally. So, for example, young people are now saying to me, and I do a lot of work with young people, 18 to 20-year-olds, they are choosing a leader not so they can fix the potholes or get the green sort of agenda right. They're actually selecting a leader who's actually will not starve women and children in Palestine.
But how much of
that value is very, very important to young people. Are you with me?
I agree.
So it depends on a Muslim. If you are doing a national priority because you're interested in the potholes, but you're not interested in human rights, then vote for Labour. You'll get that change. But my argument is, even if you don't vote for Labour, you're going to benefit from filling that pothole anyway. Are you with me? Because that's going to be a national policy to fill the potholes or get the NHS right. So automatically, by default, you're going to benefit from the policy change. It's the international policy that doesn't change. And that's now, where the Muslims have to have
just coming back to that, I mean, obviously, we saw, as I said, where the Muslim community had worked collectively together, we saw an impact. Maybe not successfully winning the seat, but they actually reduced the Labour's sort of votes substantially. Now, I know the Labour Party have been concerned about that for quite a while now, and they are looking to sort of win back the trust of particularly the Muslim community back in the United Kingdom. And I think that's one of the reasons why David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, one of the first announcements he's made is that they asked for an immediate ceasefire and the two-state solution for Palestine and Israel. But putting that to one side, do you feel that the Muslim community in this country actually understood the importance of the power that they have, in order to bring about the change that you're talking about?
I think they started to realize that. They didn't understand it before. They blindfoldedly voted the two mainstream parties. I think this was the first election because of Gaza and Palestine. People became more conscious. So there is a movement building up on consciousness. What do they want? What type of a leadership are they looking for? What type of leadership am I looking for? Honestly, I don't care about, at the moment in 2024, about the trees, saving the trees. I don't care about, the streets the way we are. What I do care about is why are women and children being blown up? That's my value. And I think majority of the people, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, if you look at the millions of people going on the marches, their values is human rights
definitely
first.
It's everything to do with humanity.
So, but what's happening is our politics have gone wrong somewhere. When they get elected, It's the lobbyists that actually set the agenda, not the people who's voted. And people have started to realize, without the lobbyists, so we have a system that actually is geared towards the rich lobbyists, powerful people, not for the voters.
But just as alongside that, why do you think that there are still people within the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, who are still don't realise the disenfranchisement that they have within the communities? You know, even after all these years, having realised that the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are not going to change their policies, but they still seem to be continuously wanting to support those parties at election times, etc. What do you need to do, or people like you who are active in this arena?
There are two types of Muslims, or two types of non-Muslims as well, in my opinion, my experience. There's the type that actually thinks about the individual, about themselves. Are you with me? They want to become the Lord Mayor. They want to become an MP. They want to become a councillor. They want to wear the chains of the mayors. They want the status. There's that type of a Muslim.
Right.
And those type of the Muslims will always vote for Labour. They'll always vote for Conservative because they're not thinking about the others.
Right.
Now, the other side of the Muslim is the conscious Muslim who thinks about actually, as a nation, we want to be proud that we base our values on equality and fairness. We will get respect for that. That's why my father left Pakistan, the corrupt politicians in Pakistan left that and thinking that he would have a better life here, which he did too. I always say that Great Britain is the best nation for Muslims at the moment, but it's not perfect.
Oh, yeah.
I want it to be better. I want it to be better in the sense of saying that United Kingdom and our political leaders actually value human rights far more than anything else. That's the failure at the moment. So we're not Great Britain because actually we're letting people die.
Because people would say that we're complicit in...
So you talked about Lemmy, the new foreign secretary. You know, great. Words are one thing, actually action is another thing.
Yeah.
So people start to now talk about what is the action of the foreign secretary. Has he stopped funding towards Israel? No. Has he stopped supplying arms? No. So the practical things that is actually killing people, women and children, is business as usual.
Right.
The words is about we want a ceasefire. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
what people say and what they do are two different things.
And I think that is where young people felt the frustration.
This is where the challenge is.
The frustration that, you know, the words are there, but they're not being followed up with the actions.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the big problems that they have. But I mean, in terms of the Muslim community, in terms of getting involved in politics, do you feel that this issue, the last election, has actually generated more interest in getting involved in politics? I mean, you work with young people. Yeah. What do you hear?
Absolutely. I mean, there were 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that never voted before.
Right.
This was the first time they voted.
Right.
And there were 25-year-olds who never voted before because they weren't interested in politics. This is the first time they voted.
Right.
So I think there is this impetus between young people. And especially with sisters as well. There's a consciousness taking place within the sisters that I've spoken to on a number of occasions at seminars and other areas. And they're becoming very, very political.
Right.
They are the ones.
Well, the sisters have been, I think, more sisters I've seen on the marches than men, I think.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the second generation, third generation. I'm talking about the ones where the husband used to say, this is the one we're going to vote for. They're the one now saying, hang on a minute, well, it's my vote.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a difference as well. And that's a welcome difference, you know, with regards towards it. So I think there is this consciousness about, you know, what is the priority for us as Great Britain. Listen, I'm a British person. I want this country to be the best. I want this country to be respected around the world.
Yes.
But at the moment,
we all do.
This country is not respected because we do not make just decisions. You cannot say a country that says can bomb women and children, starve them, that's a good political leadership.
Okay, we'll come back to that and say, well, obviously now we have the Labour Party in control of the country. They do policy decisions. They make all the decisions around some of these issues that, you know, you raised. I hope so far you found this interesting because, as I say, Maqsood is a seasoned politician, a commentator, analyst, worked at the highest place in government, in the Home Office and the Prison Service and the NHS. So I respect and value his judgment. If you would like to participate in this discussion, share with us what your thoughts and views are. We've had the election, we've seen the results. Some places they've seen success in terms of the independence, in other places they haven't. Now, there are all sorts of reasons as to why people were not successful, and we're talking about in some places where some of the campaigning left a lot to be desired in terms of the behaviour and the humanity of the candidates, or the alleged behaviour of the candidates. And we know that the Home Secretary has started an inquiry around that. So if you have any thoughts, any comments, any things you want, any ideas that you'd like to share about how, moving forward, these issues around Muslims and delivering to the Muslim community can be taken forward, please phone in 01274 214 299. That's the phone number. It'll appear on your screen as well. And we'd love to hear what you have to say as well, because obviously this is an important issue for you. We've had the election, there'll be another election in 4 years' time, 4 or 5 years' time, and maybe some of the same issues will come up again. We hope, inshallah, not to do with Palestine and Gaza, that will be settled and peace will return there. But other issues, Islamophobia, how Muslims are treated in this country in employment, in service delivery, etc., are huge issues to be discussed and debate. Inshallah, don't go away. I'll be with you soon. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.